think one of the things from TAPMI I took away was the entire sort of teamwork aspect. That was the foundation of working at TAPMI, where we were all sort of split into groups right at the beginning, and all the work that we did thereafter was group work. And I think sort of watching how team dynamics played out, and you stayed with that group pretty much for the next 2 years, was really interesting, and I think I took a lot from it. Um, also sort of really understood and learnt about different kinds of people, how to work with them, those that I worked best with and those that I didn't, which are a lot of learnings that I now really value, because now most of my time is spent with people, managing my team, working with my peer group. Um, I think the other thing, I think two courses in TAPMI that sort of deepened my interest in sales and marketing were the only two practical courses that we had. One was the distribution course run by the current director of TAPMI, Natarajan, and he had just moved in from Amul, having been many years with Amul in sales and distribution. And the kind of projects we did were not just sort of sitting in class and discussing, but he threw us into the market. So go to Kundapur and tell me what the distribution of this particular brand is like. The other course was was the advertising course run by Malvika Harita, who heads Saatchi and Saatchi at Bangalore. Perhaps my favorite class, and she was a visiting faculty. She made us do role plays and case studies in a way that we enacted them. We created advertising and presented it to her and the rest of the class. And I loved those classes. I think it really forced all of us to think and ideate and argue. I think a lot less of sort of book work and a lot more of practical work. If I were to, and I think TAPMI started to do that in a wonderful way now. I think that it's an entire finance department. TAPMI is now one of the largest finance labs with 16 Bloomberg terminals, where all students are given 25,000 rupees and they get to trade on the stock market. So you learn by doing. And I think that's what an MBA should be about. What was valuable about these 2 to 3 courses that I spoke about was because we learnt by doing. So Malvika Harita made us create brands and advertising. And Natarajan made us go into the market and put together distribution strategies. I think a lot more of that needs to be done now, especially in marketing. A lot more industry interface, especially in a day and age today where you're exposed. So I think we weren't too exposed. The internet wasn't as big then, but it's big now. So it's literally a global village. And I think also the case studies. So we worked a lot. We worked primarily through case studies. Most or almost all of the case studies were international. So relatability was something that I think was it was a bit in the distance, and a lot of things, when you go through Kotler in marketing, it's a lot of sort of standard theory, but what's actually happening in marketing is challenging status quo and challenging all of those things. And I think that's what's important, and that discussion perhaps, of challenging what was being taught in the books is something that needs to happen in B school. So while you get exposed to the theory that's out there, I think perhaps a richer part of brand management that I drew were from the books that I read on my own by Al Ries and Jack Trout. Very provocative thinking. I think they really went against the grain and of marketers, then. And I think that discourse of challenging and provoking thought, um, is what needs to be done today across all courses.